Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live. Happy Valentine's Day. If you're joining live or watching the replay the day it goes up, it's just almost another Wednesday. Sam and I did exchange small gifts. Oh, there he is, the little heart. Do you see him? He's new. He's so cute, the little heart guy. And then the theme clearly was plushies because Sam got me that little heart guy, and I got him. There was this set from Target. It was like avocado and toast, and it was like, "You're the avocado to my toast." It's very cute. I just posted a picture on Instagram, and then of course Lila has a cute little heart two-piece sweatsuit that she is rocking today. That is so soft. Hello, I see everybody popping in. Or eat more chocolate for me day. I love it. Actually, tomorrow is eat more chocolate day. Friendly reminder, if you, like me, have a sweet tooth, the day after Valentine's Day, you head over to the drugstore, the grocery store, Target, and you're going to get a nice little discount on all of the candy. I know last year when I was pregnant, I was obsessed. I had such a sweet tooth and I just wanted to eat all the like plain Hershey Kisses. And my mom was in town helping me pack. And we went to like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different Walgreens and to get like all that we could of like the plain chocolate of some kind that was on sale. It was amazing. I will definitely be hitting that up today or tomorrow. All right, let's kick it off with our first question. What is one small win that you have to share from the last week? If you're here live, please share in the comments, in the chat. And if you are part of the replay fam, please share in the comments. I love coming back to read the comments and see all of your wins. I'm finally back into, I feel like, a good groove with keeping up with Instagram comments, YouTube comments, Instagram DMs, etc. So I feel like I'm back on top of that. So if you are waiting for a response from me from one of those places, I sent it again, maybe because it must have just gotten lost, because in my mind, I am all caught up and staying on top of it, which feels really good. Now I'm going to try to incorporate, I got back on track with the Plan with Laken comments for stuff. And now I want to try to incorporate the comments for both on Instagram and on YouTube for the podcast is the next step. Let me share mine while yours come in. I washed our sheets, which was the step from last week. It doesn't have to be that complicated, y'all. If you watched the live last week and you shared, this was the step I'm going to do, that's the perfect win. Check back in, share with us that you did it, and that's the perfect win, and that's what mine is. I said I was going to wash our sheets, and I did. It's still like my least favorite task in the entire world. Anyone have any tips on how to make that not the worst task in the world? Finally got most of our RSVPs and picked up my wedding dress. That is amazing. What is your date again? Because I'm impressed if you got all your RSVPs. It was like pulling teeth there at the end. I've gotten my evening has to be done chores done every night this week. That is amazing. Cleaned up the little leftover boxes from Christmas. Finished my fifth. Wow, I tried to combine those words together. Finished my 5th book during the Power Hour replay. So it's 5 out of 6 for my Q1 goal. Look at you. Now, this is one Q1 goal, Jennifer, that I'm not going to tell you to increase it, but you don't have to stop it, right? Because I remember we had a conversation where you had a quarterly goal that you already hit and you were like, should I add to it? If you hit your reading goal, which looking at the numbers, my guess is that you will, you don't need to increase your quarterly goal, but you don't have to quit reading until the end of the quarter because we don't want to kill that momentum. River J, thank you for including your name so that you are a good example. If your YouTube handle, like River J's, is not the name you prefer to go by, please include it. Stepped out of your comfort zone and actually participated. I love it. Went to the gym, even though my husband bailed. Sometimes that buddy system works and sometimes it doesn't. So I hope you're super proud of yourself. Signed a new client, completed a fitness assessment. I've said Jamie's while I clicked on a different one because it popped up. Decluttered your bonus area. Been consistent with taking the pup for a walk 3 times a week, weather dependent. Yeah. I mean, we've been very, very lucky. I feel like I can't complain too much about the weather. We had one really bad week, but otherwise it has been, knock on all the wood, relatively mild this winter. So I feel like I've got to be appreciative of that. Had a family game night. I love that. Our date is April 6th. I set the deadline as the end of January to give myself more time to do stuff. Yeah. no, that totally makes sense. I'm trying to remember what ours was. I don't know. I make sure to have at least 2 sets of sheets. That way, when I take off the old, I can put a new set right on and wash the old. I feel like a hurdle for me is having to put the sheets on later. Michelle, yeah. And that's what somebody suggested to me last week too. And I used to, when we had a queen size bed, I did have 2 sets of sheets. Since getting the king, I only have 1 set of king sheets. And I haven't invested in a second set, but we're probably getting close to that needing to be. Yes, it makes sense to keep reading to provide a buffer for the rest of the year and the large books in your future. That is also very true. When the problem sometimes with setting just like a generic reading goal of I want to read X number of books is you then sometimes want to pressure yourself to read shorter books because then you can get through them faster. I even found myself doing that. I was browsing the Libby app, like looking at audiobooks, and I was like, wow, that is a long book. Like that is a lot of hours. Which is why I do think for me this year, picking the exact books that I want to read this year makes me feel better about reading longer books. But yeah, definitely keeping that little bit of a buffer. All right. I love hearing about all of your wins. Let's continue the conversation about reading. Let me share the updates on my reading goals. So I finished 2 books last week. I finished The Lazy Genius Kitchen in hard copy. Now, the end of the book, if you have this book, is kind of like tips or like when this applies. So I didn't necessarily read every single word of the last section because it just didn't seem to be necessary right now. I kind of like skimmed each section so I knew what was back there so I could always go reference it. And then I put this book with the cookbooks in my kitchen. Like it's not a cookbook, but it's a book I'm going to reference in the kitchen, and having it in here in my office doesn't make any sense. So I did finish that one. And then I finished The Fourth Wing. I can't remember what I told y'all last week about it. And there was a lot of like hit or miss in the comments. I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I wanted to keep reading it. It was so good. It was very, very good. And then perfect timing, like the day I was close to finishing it, the library was like, here is Iron Flame. So I started Iron Flame like immediately right after. Speaking of long books, this is one of those super, super long books. Like I feel like I've been reading it a decent amount. And I'm not really even close to being done with it. I also don't feel like I'm as into it. And I've heard that a lot as well. A lot of people said they loved Fourth Wing, and then Iron Flame, they were kind of like, it's good, but it's not as good. But honestly, for me, for fiction, that's like the perfect balance. I want a book that I want to read, but not only want to read, right? When I was reading Fourth Wing, I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And I only wanted to read. Whereas with Iron Flame now, and like this is, I feel like the sweet spot for me is finding a book that I'm excited to get in bed and read at night. But then after a couple chapters, I'm like, okay, I'm good. And I can turn it off and go to sleep. And it's that sweet spot. So that's how I feel like it's going so far. It's taking a long time because it's a really long book. I probably will have it finished by next week. We'll see. Kind of also depends. We don't have any plans for this weekend. So potentially. All right. Additionally, currently reading, I'm reading. So I have 2. I just realized I did this. Sorry, I paused because I realized I did this in a different format than the other ones. So for audiobooks, for nonfiction, I am listening to Set Boundaries, Find Peace. I'm not that far into it. I literally just got it from the library this morning. And then in hard copy, I am reading Chill and Prosper, which is, I actually set in right here. It's so pretty. It is a business focused book. I am only one. Well, it looks like I'm further than I am. Talk about seeing progress, right? Being able to see that. It's such a good mindset. Like the mindset of it is so good. Like, I feel like I need to just tell you one of the things I highlighted this morning that I almost like immediately sent out to the community, but I'll share it here. There is no such thing as 100% approval rating. It's not failure, it's statistics. I love that. I love that. And then as always, I'm still reading The Daily Stoic. I missed a day over the weekend, so I am at 91% on the year. Once again, my goal is just to get to, just to finish the year at 80%, and then I get to count this book as read. So those are my reading updates. Picking shorter reading goals is how I shorter books is how you reach my reading goal in 2023. A lot of 3-hour books in December. Yeah. So what's funny is when I was waiting for, what made me think of that too, was when I was waiting for Set Boundaries, Find Peace, I didn't have an audiobook in my possession. And so I took the time, I caught up on all my podcasts, all my YouTube videos, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready, library, like you can give me one. And the Set Boundaries, Find Peace still said 2 weeks. And so I was considering, I was like, do I start something different? And I know I've mentioned to y'all that I do want to listen to / reread Becoming by Michelle Obama. I read it a couple of years ago when it came out, but I want to listen to it. My mom has it on audiobook. And I clicked on it and it was 19 hours. I was like, oh, I mean, the Harry Potter books, the last couple like were that long, but I was enjoying those. Those were like fiction. That wasn't like, oh, I'm checking this off. But anyways, 19 hours. So I was like, there's no way that if I start it, I'm going to finish it before the library gives me my next audiobook. Cause I had quite a few that were like at 2-3 weeks. And if you use Libby, you know that those estimates like will turn on a dime. So I was like, don't start it. Just chill for a second. I did a lot of like listening to music over the weekend. I was like, just take a break. You don't need to have something in your ears telling you things at all times. Take a break. And then when you get the book from the library, the timing, that will be the right timing. I'm waiting for Iron Flame to be available. You know what's funny is I also bought the hard copies, but I'm reading the Kindle versions from the library. I have a super long book that I read a chapter or two or a month. It will take me years, but I'm happy to go that slowly. Otherwise, I would never finish it. That is so fair. And everybody reads at their own pace. Like some people probably see that I just shared I'm reading like 3 or 4 books at one time and be like, whoa, I could never do that. And some people, yeah, you've got multiple books going. You pick them up, put them down all over the place. Everybody is so different. All right, there is our reading check-in. Let's check in with our goals. And by our goals, I mean my goals. So here is the snapshot of my February goals. I literally took it this morning, clearly after I did my I am statements, but before the other two, which I don't know, that doesn't make any sense because I do them all kind of close together. But starting with the one-time steps, I am getting there. I am pretty close to being done. December daily is the only one up in the air if I will even finish it because I just don't know if I'm going to have time to I wrote the word finish and now I'm like, I don't know if that's going to happen. I have made progress. I have started working on it, but finishing it TBD. Everything else is pretty much done. The only outstanding one there is my registry discount, and that will be done by next week because it expires on Sunday. So I will be finishing up that exercise. I actually asked for your help on Instagram a couple of days ago, and I'll reiterate it here on YouTube. If you are a parent, or I know that one of my best gifts was from someone who is an aunt and got the recommendation from their sister. So if you have any recommendations, I have a 15% off code on Amazon for the rest of my registry stuff that wasn't purchased. And so I want to make sure I utilize it to grab things that I'm going to need in the next phase of her life. So like the 6 to 12 month phase, I've already added a bunch of like eating solids type things, bowls, spoons, all those kinds of things. And then also travel type stuff, a travel sound machine, etc. But I'm not quite at the total amount that I have available. So I want to take advantage of a discount. So if you have any recommendations for stuff to get, I have tons of the messages you sent me on Instagram and I haven't gone through them yet. That's on my list for this weekend. The weekly stuff is going. Y'all, I didn't need to put these on here. I think I said that last week. And the daily stuff is going. It's pretty good. I missed a couple of days last week for stuff. We had some off nights, and so we had some off days in turn. But got right back on track and am hitting it this week. So feeling good about those February goals. I know I mentioned this in my like January to February goals video that I think there's a couple of reasons why it's like I had a good January, and then I think those same reasons apply to why February is going well. You know, we're halfway through the month right now. I think some of it is I got really focused. I don't have as many goals as I've had in the past. I'm really like narrowing in, which then leads to the steps being really small and like having those steps. I mean, some of these things was literally making a dentist appointment, making a vision appointment. And so some of the steps are so small that it makes it just, I don't feel overwhelmed to get started. And then the last reason, which I can't duplicate for you, is just I do have a new sense of motivation after having a baby. I want to achieve my goals. I want to get them done. I don't want to procrastinate them. I want to be the best version, the happiest version of me, but then also like get the things done so I can just spend time with her. So that is my tiny little mini spiel. And that is my goal check-in for the week. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good about it. A couple more book things. I'm listening to a 25-hour book right now. Whew, that is a lot of book. It's good, but it takes forever. And I just want to be done so I can update my list. I checked my Audible books I hadn't read yet when I didn't have loans available from Libby. I started Take Control of Your Life by Mel Robbins. So good about combating fear and gaining more control. I've not read that one. Actually, I don't even think I've heard of that one. I follow Mel Robbins and love her. She talks about taking small steps to accomplish tasks. Yeah. Audio, The Fourth Wing, but it's strictly my workout book to keep me showing up for my workouts. I love that, Tina. I love that. There was someone I worked with one-on-one who did that, where we had a book that she only listened to when she was on her stationary bike. I did also, in relation to this comment, put The Fourth Wing and Iron Flame audio on hold at the library. I think it literally, and Libby says, several months, which I think is fine, because by then I will be excited to like reread it and can enjoy it audio style. I'm reading The Summer I Turned Pretty, and it's a 3-star so far. Oh, bummer. Not slow enough to stop, but not really captivating. That's a bummer. I like that definition of 3-star, though. Not slow enough to stop, but not really captivating. For baby, I love an apron style bib for eating out to protect her clothes. I've never heard of that. And that sounds like a really good idea. I did get some bibs because I added, there were some people who didn't get us gifts. Like, I was pretty thoughtful with our baby registry to only have stuff like that I was going to need at the beginning. And then so right before she was born, anything that wasn't purchased, I bought it. And then after she was born, there were a handful of people who were like, I still want to get you a gift. Either they were very, very traditional in the Jewish custom not to buy gifts until after the baby is born, or it was just like family friends who knew we were pregnant, but like didn't realize they wanted to buy a gift, I guess, until baby was here. So I added a bunch of stuff like the couple of weeks after she was born. And I did some stuff for this phase. So like the next car seat was on there. And then I did like the silicone bibs were on there. So we already have some of those. I'm trying to think what else I did then, but now I'm at the point where no one's buying stuff for us anymore. I just want to make sure that I utilize the discount. So I'm trying to throw in some. If anybody, specifically for travel, if you have any experience with the blackout stuff, if those things that go over the pack and play are really worth it, if they're awesome, or is the slumber pod, which is way more expensive, like, is that really worth it? Or is doing portable blackout curtains the move? Like, those are the 3 things that I'm debating between. And I definitely want to get one of those, but haven't made a decision on that. I use press and seal wrap on my kids' clothes to protect them and out and about when eating. Oh my God, that's hilarious and amazing and brilliant. I love that so much. I appreciate all of your suggestions. If you use a pacifier, I loved a holder and will always recommend a baby carrier for older babies and toddlers. Okay, do you mean the baby carrier that you wear? Because we have one of those and absolutely love it. I wore it to Costco last week. I wore her to Costco last week because I can't like push I was getting so much stuff that I was like, there's not space for you in the cart because you have to she can't sit up in the cart yet, right? So I was like, there's not space for you in the cart. And I can't push a stroller and push a cart at the same time. So I wore her to Costco and she loves it. She loves to be able to like look at the world and see all the things. I love my carrier. All right. Wow. I can't believe it's already been 20 minutes. Let's move into the topic for this week. So the topic is goal setting and accountability. And if you're here, especially those of you who are here every single week, right? I know you, I know your names. You're like, Laken, I already set goals for the new year. Why do I need accountability with setting goals? Because I already set them. The truth is, you're always setting goals. It doesn't just happen in December and then you're done. You are always, always setting goals, whether it's little tiny action steps, whether it's adjusting goals that you already have, you are always setting goals. So what I want to talk about is how to stay accountable, continuing to set goals. what is going to hold you accountable to continuing to set goals throughout the year and not let the kind of funk of this time of year take hold, because this is the time of year where your motivation is pretty much gone. It's cold. You're sick of it being dark. Daylight savings hasn't happened yet. And you're just like, why is it always like, I don't want to do this anymore? So the first one is the obvious one, which is the change in the calendar. Let that be your accountability to setting and changing goals. Now, some of you probably already do this, right? It's a new month and you're going to set new goals, but make sure that you are scheduling time to do this, right? Make sure that it is in your calendar that you are going to check in with your goals. Don't just roll in from one month to the other. And that could have been easy to do in January, partially because January felt like 8 million years long, and partially because the change was smack dab in the middle of the week. So what I want to remind you with this tip or this accountability method is make the decision in advance. What day is going to be the new month for you? Maybe you truly are going to start the new month on the 1st. And then like that is when things change. But if you're like me, I really like things to start on a Monday. I'm very much a Monday start girl. So I am going to start my new month on a Monday, regardless of the date. So for example, back in January, I started February on January, it was the 29th, right? Yeah, that was the Monday. So that was the start of the new month for me. I'm looking at the calendar. And the decision I make on when I start is kind of based on how, where the day of the week is, but then also what are my plans the weekend before? Because I want to make sure that I have a nice weekend to kind of prepare for the month. So looking at the calendar, I actually think I originally was going to start February on the 26th or March on the 26th of February. In fact, for work, that's all I have planned through. So now that I'm thinking about it, my work and personal month refresh might line up slightly differently, because that weekend before, the 23rd, 24th, 25th, I have a lot going on. I have a lot going on that weekend. And so it's not enough time for me to completely reset my life. So I probably will continue my February goals through that week and start March on March 4th. Number 2, which by the way, these are not exclusive. It's not like you're picking one of these 5 things. It could be all 5 potentially. But utilizing a goal planner. If you're using a goal planner, it is so much easier to stay accountable to continuing to set your goals. Whatever goal planner you have likely has some sort of check-in, some sort of refresh, and some sort of setting up the next month. Especially when it's dated, it is so easy to be accountable to the next one. Now, if you are utilizing an undated goal planner, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. This isn't necessarily going to be an accountability tool for you, is what I mean there. It's going to be a tool for other reasons. You use a goal planner for way more than just accountability, but that is one main reason for it. And so by having an undated one, doesn't quite motivate you as much. Whereas when you have a dated one, you're like, oh, it's time to set up the next page in my goal planner. Number 3 is to set goals with a friend. Do you have somebody in your life? I want you to think about if there is somebody that you could talk to about this, that you talk to on a regular basis. So you're not adding in another step, another thing to remember, somebody you already talked to that you could talk goals with. And maybe you already talk goals and you just need to amp it up a little bit, or maybe you don't and you need to be like, hey, let's talk about this. I promise you that the people in your life, at least one person in your life is probably more interested than you think they are. I have found that I won't talk about goals necessarily with friends that don't also consume my content in some way, if that makes sense. Like I don't want to go above and beyond, but I find that when I do talk to them about it, they're also interested in it. So think about it. See if you can think about setting goals with a friend. And then the other piece of this I mentioned before is, sure, in an ideal world, it's one friend that you're sharing all of your goals with, but there's also a scenario where you share different goals with different friends. So maybe you have a colleague and that is the person you share work goals with. Maybe you have somebody else who is also planning a wedding or having a baby and you can share those goals with them. Maybe you have somebody who also owns a business or has a side hustle and you could share those goals with them. It's just my own personal examples of the people that I share goals with. Maybe you have somebody who's also on a health journey and you share those goals with them, but you don't have to share every goal, but you're talking about those individual goals. The next one, the next option is to go somewhere special. Try it. I get it. I get it. Getting out of the house is hard. Going to a different place is hard. But man, oh man, the accountability when I am in a different location is massive. So if you are struggling with accountability on the steps for setting the goals, go do it somewhere special. I did this a couple years ago with a friend where we actually rented a hotel room for 2 nights and set our goals for the new year together. And I absolutely loved that. In retrospect, setting my yearly goals in like a 24-hour period did not work for me. I need more time broken up in between that. But from a being somewhere else and not having the mental load of all the other stuff around you, right? Even just sitting at my desk, I'm like, oh, I could clean that. Oh, all the things that I could also be doing, and my brain is in a million places. Whereas if you're sitting somewhere else, you still might think of some of those things, but there's at least not the visual triggers and the visual clutter that comes with being in your own space. So even if it's just for an hour or two, go somewhere else and try and utilize that fresh space as accountability. And then the last one, which is just a personal favorite, but also this probably doesn't need to surprise you, is to utilize a goal workshop. Have somebody else hold you accountable by telling you to move on. This is especially valuable if you are somebody who gets all caught up in your thoughts and you take an activity that probably only needs an hour or two and make it take a day because you overthink and spend too much time. Especially if you're using a goal planner, it can be like you want to fill up every line. I couldn't think of like a verb there. Like you could expect yourself, I guess, to fill up every line. And so you overthink it and you sit there and you're like, well, I can't move on until I fill up every line. Enter goal workshop, where I want to make sure that you have ample time to answer the question, but then you move on and you move on to the next step. So if you still haven't set any goals for the new year, like if you are here and you haven't set 2024 goals, I have some good news for you. The goal workshops that I taught in December are on sale. So if you use the code Feel the Love, you can get 30% off the goal setting workshop until Friday. It's a 48-hour code that went live this morning. And so it will expire Friday morning. And you could spend the weekend. It's about 8 hours-ish of workshop time. And you could have your goal set by the end of the weekend. There's a lot of valuable stuff in it. The workshop is holding you accountable. It's like you're there with friends because people are sharing their thoughts, which I love. And so if you haven't set any goals for 2024, first off, it's not too late. We are not even, what is the number? We're 88% of the way through the year is the number. I was trying to negate that for whatever reason. We're 88% of the way. Not 88% of the way through. We're 12% of the way through. We have 88% of the year left. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. If you worked on your goals every day from now until the end of the year, you get a B+. It's pretty good. So if you haven't set goals for 2024, grab the workshops for 30% off. Community members, you do have an additional discount. That code is in Teachable. It also will expire Friday morning. Now, if you set goals for 2024 and all you need is just a refresh for March, come join the community. We do this every single month. And the goal setting call is next week for February into March. So come join us and we will get your goals all set up for March. So that is it. That is what I have with you. Any thoughts, questions on the topic before we move into Q&A? Okay, I'm going to quickly read the comments here from some of the registry recommendations. Carrying my kids as much as I could is the only thing I miss from having babies. I love that. The pack and play cover was super helpful in the summer. I chose it over curtains so the light in our and our phones wouldn't wake her up. We room share when traveling, but don't at home. Amy, yeah, that was part of my thought too. The couple trips we have coming up, we aren't room sharing. Like we're staying with family who has enough space that we can be in 2 separate rooms. So, and by coming up, I mean April, May, and June. We have 3 trips booked with her. And all 3 of them, we have actually, that is not true. I bet at my dad's, we will not be able to be in 2 separate rooms. Okay. That may have just answered my question versus the curtains. The slumber pod is 100% worth it. We upgraded to the blow up toddler bed in the slumber pod, and they've loved it since day one. And there's a spot for the monitor. Crystal, that's the one thing that was also kind of motivating me about the slumber pod was the spot for the monitor. Okay. No, the stuff on top of the pack and play is not worth it. I didn't have them with my other 2, so thought I would get with this 3rd baby, and we don't use it. All right. Maybe I just need to suck it up and get the slumber pod. I've heard it's kind of hard to put up, though. Any thoughts on that? It's kind of a pain to set up. It is just so much more expensive than like the pack and play cover. Womp womp. Ooh, keeping with the book theme, I didn't realize that I needed someone to help keep me accountable in selecting my next book. Delaying my selection can impact my reading goal, and I struggle with starting. Jennifer, I feel the same way a lot of times. And so that is one of the reasons why in 2024, I was like, these are the exact books I'm going to read because I took the decision making out of the question. Because that's also something that I definitely struggle with. Some of the other things, like tips that I have for this topic for you or for anybody else who struggles with this, series, like reading series, it just automatically puts you into the next, like you know what you're going to read next. The other one is picking before you're done. So have a decide once, lazy genius principle, that when I am 75% of the way through a book, I'm going to go ahead and pick which book is going to be next. That way I'm not making that decision when I have to really ump that momentum. You're already in the groove of reading when you're making that decision. Oh yeah, the covers are way cheaper than a slumber pod. Like almost like 80% cheaper. But you couldn't see her, yeah. Back to the slumber pod. Knowing the amount you all like to travel, I think the slumber pod would be worth it because it would last into toddler years as well. I like to approach big purchases with the mindset of price per use. That's a really great point, Amber. Yeah, because like people said, you can put like a blow up toddler bed in the slumber pod. And we do like to travel. I just don't want to pull the trigger on that initial price, but you're probably so right. I mean, the amount that we do, I mean, the 3 trips I'm talking about ahead of us, I mean, that's 20 nights, right? Like it's 2 week-long trips and then a 6-day, like 7, 6, and 7 are those trips that I'm talking about. So it's 20 nights of sleep. Like, I feel like I know it's worth it. I just don't want to do it. Dang it. Silly slumber pod. I feel like they created something they knew they wanted. A friend of mine rented a slumber pod. You could try that to see if you like it before you pull the trigger. That's a good suggestion too. I lost my train of thought. I did just look into this because I was looking at renting other stuff when we were going to be at my in-laws' house in Texas. And there was, what was it? There was something that I was like, oh, I could rent that. And then I looked at the price of like the per day rental and I was like, well, now I'm halfway to the cost of it. So I might as well, if like we're going to go twice, I might as well just buy it and leave it at her house. Right. So that would probably be the hard thing for me too. But what you made me think of, a couple of things that came up while we were talking about this, we may use it at home too. And here's why. Our guest bed is in the nursery. And so when we have company, we will move her into the pack and play into either one of our offices or into our room or somewhere. And so we might use it at home too. And so maybe this one I wouldn't be able to use the discount. I was gonna say maybe I try renting it when we have company in a couple of weeks and see if I like it when they're here and then go from there. But then I can't use the discount. Dang it. Oh, Amy, by the stuff on the pack and play, I meant the bassinet and the changing pad. If you haven't bought a pack and play, I wouldn't waste money because your baby is already so big. Oh, we already had pack and play. That was actually our bassinet at the beginning. We didn't buy a separate bassinet. We just used pack and play. And so it does have those things on top. The one we picked out did come with those things on top of it. She grew out of the bassinet attachment in like 0.5 seconds. And the same with the changing pad. Like it was, I agree. I don't know that those toppers were really necessary. Those are already in trash bags in the storage unit. So unnecessary for us too. But yeah, that's a good point. We do already have a pack and play. And that we will, or was that what I was looking at my in-laws that I was like, if I rent it, I might as well. Yeah, I think that was what it was. Where I was like, if I rent it, it was like $10 a day. So renting it for our one trip is $70. And then all of a sudden I'm halfway to the price of one. Like I should just buy one to leave at my in-laws kind of thing. I don't want to travel with it. That's for sure. This is just general actually call out tips with traveling with kids, period. Here for any tips, suggestions that y'all have. And I like how Jamie and Jennifer are continuing the conversation of reading in the chat. I started using Storyworth instead of Goodreads, and it has an up next, so I can cue what I want to read next. I love that. Oh, it's called Storygraph. Yes, Storyworth is the freaking, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, Jamie. I see that they sponsor everything. Margaret, I know you're trying to use the discount, but the Slumber Pod could be a good first birthday gift. It totally could, but if I'm going to spend the money on it, I know you're maybe suggesting that we ask for it for like from a grandparent or something. I want it for these first couple trips that we have coming up. What? Oh, well. Okay. We kind of already went into this, but just like an official kickoff, this is your time now. I am here for the next 24 minutes to answer any questions that you have. It can be a topic that you want to talk about. You can just put topic and whatever it is. It can be a question about your specific goals or a struggle that you're having. And I promise you, if you feel like it is specific to you in your life, somebody else will benefit from the response, or it can be about anything else that you want to chat about. Oh my goodness. Sorry, my grandparents are posting. Or my grandparents are not my grandparents. Our grandparents are texting us. We have like a grandparent group chat, and that's what it's called, grandparents. They're distracting me. I apologize. Remember, Amazon also has a great return policy. That's true. I always forget about that. That's true. All right. What do you want to chat about? What do you have questions about? What are you struggling with? How are you feeling? We're about halfway through February, which can be the hardest month with goals. It really can, because that January motivation is basically gone, and you are relying now on your momentum and your action steps and your why to carry you through, keep you going. Or we can just keep talking about baby stuff. That's fine with me too. I know some of you are like, I don't have a child, so let's talk about goals. And some of you are here with me and you're like, we could talk about baby stuff all day long and we could keep talking, keep going. I'm going to look into those smock bibs for sure that Amy talked about. Yeah, because I definitely wouldn't want to have to lost my train of thought. Clean one of those silicone bibs like at a restaurant. That doesn't sound like fun. What else is on your mind? What are you thinking about? I would think about how easy it is to travel with Sleep Pod versus Pack and Play. It's true. Although as long as she's this little, I will still need both, a combination of both. The Sleep Pod at this point is about the darkness. All right. I don't have any weekly goals this month. So I took your sister's idea and added my daily tasks into the weekly item so I can count how many days I complete a habit and see my progress better. I love this. So if you don't know what she's talking about, it's because we talked about it on a community call. So my sister started setting goals this year. And I sent her the goal planner and she has been utilizing it. And I, in January, took a snapshot of it and shared it inside the community with her permission. I'm not going to post it here because I don't have permission to share it at this wide of a group. But what I will explain is that she doesn't have any set weekly, like separate weekly goals. What she has is cumulative of her daily goals. So for example, she has a goal to work out a certain number of times a week. So in the daily section, she's got workout and she tracks them daily, knowing very well that she's going to miss days. She's not trying to work out every single day. And then in the weekly section, she's got workout X times. Now, normally I would tell you if you have a goal to work out a certain number of times or do something a certain number of times in a week, to not put it on one line in the weekly section, because that can be demotivating. Like, let's say you have a goal to work out 3 times and one week you work out twice, you're not going to get that check mark. And then you're going to feel bad and you're going to think, oh, I didn't get any progress that week, when that's not true. You did work out twice. Now, the reason that I'm okay with her doing it is because she can then see those check marks down in the daily section. So even if she falls short by 1, then in the weekly, she puts an X, not a check. But she can see in the daily that she did do it. And what she has been doing also is putting a little number next to it, how many times she did do it. And she has that. She's got 5 things. She is focused strictly on her physical health right now. And so she's got 5 things and they are all they all match up to a weekly. So she's got like working out, she has eating out. I don't know what they all are. So that is a really great idea. If you don't have any things in the weekly section, to keep track of the daily count, and then you can see the progress that you're making. And I'm always here for the double check mark. I'm always here for those double check marks. Weekly stuff is hard for me all too. Like my weekly ones this week, I'm getting the checks every week. I'm just doing them. I didn't need to put them on my goals to motivate me. And I'm trying to decide for February it says February. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do for March, because I don't know if I want to do weekly goals. I don't know. We'll see. Struggling with evening routine. I feel like I have no motivation once I get home from work and just want to relax. Completely can relate to this, Amber. And I did a video on my evening routine during Vlogmas, and it's still basically the same. So and in that video, I share thoughts on like evening routines in general. And so if you're interested in that, that could be helpful. But you just sent another one. However, things like laundry, dinner, cleaning still need to happen. I've tried to add a few things to the morning, but I still feel behind if I relax. Okay. So a couple of things. Number 1 is some of these tips. I don't know if it sounds like once I get home from work, it seems like you work outside of the home. So some of these tips are the things that I used to do when I worked in the office. So number 1 was I gave myself a little bit of time to relax right when I got home, but then I had a time that I got up off the couch and I did whatever it is that I needed to do. So part of that worked because my commute time could vary greatly with the New York City subway system. My commute could be 20 minutes or it could be 45 minutes. And so I always said an hour after I left the office, which was typically 5. If I left at 5, then I could, by the time I got home and relaxed at 6, that's when I had to get up off the couch and do whatever. Because the commute to me was also kind of relaxing because I watched YouTube videos, etc. And so when I got home, I changed clothes, I put my bag away, and then I could relax. Once 6 o'clock hit, it was time to start and do the things. Now, I also am not an evening person. And so I always wanted it to be the least amount of stuff in the evening as possible. And so what really worked for me was I had one thing. What is the one thing that has to be done in the evening? And as long as I did that one thing, I felt good about it. And then I could decide, do I want to do more things or do I want to be done if I did my one thing? It's working with your energy. And if you have no energy in the evenings, trying to squeeze laundry, dinner, cleaning, all the things into the evening is going to be not sustainable for you. And so I would recommend, like you said, trying to do those things at other times, whether it's in the morning or on the weekends. And I know that's not always feasible. I mean, you can't do dinner. I mean, you could do something of dinner in the mornings. When I started working from home, I moved dinner to lunch because that worked so much better for me. But it was, okay, at 6 o'clock, I had to get up off. I had to do at least my one thing. And then I could decide, do I have the energy to do more or do I need to relax? And it was working with my energy each and every day that helped. And then also, like you said, pushing those things that don't have to happen in the evenings to other times of the day because they're just not happening in the evenings. Then, when it comes to the actual evening routine, and I guess there's two pieces to this here, right? There's the evening and then there's the bedtime. So, the things that you're talking about, laundry, dinner, cleaning, these are more evening type tasks. But you don't have to think about them as necessarily a routine. It is, again, based on that day. How much energy do you have that day? What do you need to do? And focus on that. And then when it comes to the bedtime routine, I keep mine as simple as possible. Like literally it is wash my face, brush my teeth, feed the cat, couple things for her, for Lila, and then pull the laundry out and put it in the hallway. Like those are my or my bedtime routine things. And I keep it as simple as possible. And then I also continue to remind myself, I don't have to do every step every day. I still benefit from even doing part of it. This is also a good option. I've been trying not to relax until I'm ready for bed. Once the momentum stops, it's hard to start going again. So I think the other thing for you, Amber, is trial and error. You have to figure out what works for you. And that sometimes, I know this is going to be hard to hear for a lot of you, for a lot of goals. You can't think your way into the best option. You could try. You can sit there and make the pro con list and you can try to be as logical as possible. But most of the time, we just have to try things and see if they work. And then if they do, great. And if they don't, great. I learned that those things don't work. Let me try something different. I love the distinction between an evening routine and a bedtime routine. It's two very different times of day for most of us. If you don't get home until an hour before bedtime, for you it might be the same. Or if you work a funky schedule, like obviously there's an exception. But for most of us, there's a very clear distinction between the evening and the bedtime. A lot of times it's a mental energy. I'm a medical coder, which takes a lot of my bandwidth. Ooh, okay, so that's also very interesting. So what you need is not necessarily so much the physical rest, but the mental rest. And we talked a lot about rest last year. We did 2 whole months on rest in the community. And one of the things we talked about there is that there is a difference between mental rest and physical rest, and to have items that fall into all of the categories, right? So there are things that are a physical rest, but not a mental rest. That's like doing a puzzle, or for some people, it's reading a book. And then there are things that are a mental break, but not necessarily a physical break. And that could be like, for some people, it could be working out, right? That is a mental break for you, etc. And then there's things that's both, right? I'm mentally resting and physically resting. So if what you're struggling with is mental, then make sure that all the things that you have on the list to do in the evening aren't mentally stimulating. It's a simple dinner recipe. And the decision for dinner is already made, right? That piece of it. That's not like thinking about the things that you can do to take the mental break without worrying about, like, it also needs to be me sitting on the couch, right? Laundry could be a mental break, right? Like you're physically folding laundry, but if you're listening to music, it can be a mental break. This is also a great suggestion that came originally from somebody in our community. Reverse Pomodoro for getting your butt off the couch. So a typical Pomodoro cycle is 25 minutes of work and 5 minutes of rest. A really great suggestion for evening time is 25 minutes of rest and 5 minutes of work. So you take 25 minutes to chill and relax. And then when that timer goes off, you spend 5 minutes doing something. And you do 5 minutes of something. And then you go back to resting. That's a great reminder. If you set up systems and have the decisions of what to do already, decision fatigue is real. Yes, Amber, I think for you, even making the decision in the morning of what the thing you're going to do in the evening is could be very, very helpful. Yeah. I think that's a good topic. I know, Amber, you're not the only one that struggles with that. And I've been playing with the idea of like like a little mini something on habits and routines because I know it's a really common topic. Let's talk about connections. The struggle is real. If you have no idea what she's talking about, there is a game called Connections created by the New York Times. You can play it on their website or you can download their app and play it for free on the app. And the concept is that there's 16 words and you're trying to group them into groups of 4 and they have a connection of some kind. It is you kind of just have to play it to understand. And I have been sharing my results every morning. I started out by just sending them to my dad. And then somebody I follow on Instagram started sharing their results on stories. And I was like, oh, I could share mine every day. And then it's so fun because it results in conversation. So many of you will respond and be like, oh my gosh, me too. Or oh my gosh, I couldn't get this category. It's also interesting. People from different parts of the world. It is an American game. Although there was one word at one point that was very much I didn't understand how it fit into that category. And my dad, who was actually born and raised in England, was like, no, that's a very British term. And I was like, well, that's annoying because this is an American game. Like it should not be in there, but it is. I think it's just fun. I think it's just fun. It gets my brain thinking. To be honest, sometimes I do it in the middle of the night, but it just gets my brain thinking. If you're looking for something fun. I have a goal of 24 books for the year, and I'm now on book 21. I want to move my goal, but I don't know where to move it to. So, Anna, I would ask yourself, what is it that you're enjoying about reading? What is it bringing you? Is it a relaxing thing for you? Is it the like what are you getting? Is it reading nonfiction and getting information? Like what are you getting from reading besides just hitting a goal of 24 books? And set goals around that as opposed to a book count. So set goals around reading a certain number of times each week or a certain amount of time, or it's reading certain books. Like don't put off those. We were talking earlier at the beginning of the I almost said call, kind of call, but about reading super long books. Like, don't feel bad about reading those. Or if it really is about nonfiction, like take the time to read the specific books that you want to have on your list. Whatever it is about reading that you are getting out of it, focus on that. And then also, before you just increase it, I would ask myself, am I using reading to procrastinate my other goals? Because I think I am doing that to some extent, especially with December Daily. I think I am, and also it doesn't help that I'm in a book I really like, but I spent a lot of weekend time reading instead of working when I could have been working on December Daily. And so I am also very much ahead on my goal this year. And I'm like, did I set the goal too short or am I using reading to procrastinate other stuff? I know that's a little bit of I'm not giving you an exact number for sure. Okay. River J, staying motivated when momentum is not possible due to physical and or mental struggles, staying motivated without consistency. At this time, it's just not possible. All right. If consistency and momentum is not possible, then ask yourself what else keeps you motivated? Is it seeing the progress and making sure that you're tracking progress in as small increments as possible so you're seeing it? Is it planning for a reward at the end of whatever it is that you're working on? Saying when you do it 100 times, that's a really big number. Take that back. When I do it 20 times, even if it's not going to be 20 days, it's going to be 30 days, 40 days, 50 days. I get to reward myself with XYZ. Is it being able to share it with somebody else? Right? When I get this done, I will share it with other people. Momentum is a key to motivation. There are other ways to motivate yourself, but you have to figure out what works for you because I know that some of you have said, like, buying myself something at the end doesn't motivate me. And that's fine. It doesn't motivate everybody, but you've got to figure out what does motivate you and utilize that. For me, seeing progress, like seeing check marks, is super motivating. That is super motivating for me. Doesn't work for everybody else, but seeing things moved, like seeing my sticky notes moved over, seeing things checked off is very motivating. So ask yourself what for this specific goal that you cannot implement momentum, which is fine. What else could motivate you? I thought I saw another one. Vacation is my motivation, although it would be nice to look good. My goal, I'm going to probably mispronounce that, is to feel good. Eating breakfast is my goal this month. 6 out of 14 is better than 0. I need breakfast ideas. 6 out of 14 is better than 0. That is almost half. That's almost 50%, which is awesome. So for breakfast ideas, Tina, I would ask myself, what do I want out of the breakfast? Is it important that it is savory or sweet? Some people are like a specific, I need breakfast to be savory. Some people need breakfast to be sweet. Is it is it that it's fast and that it's already done? Is it that it's cold or is it that it's hot? Some people want hot breakfast, some people want cold breakfast. Is it that it hits any kind of other certain goal, certain protein level or a certain calorie level or whatever it is? I would get clear on what it is you want about breakfast first, and then you can work on the ideas from there, because I could start spewing out breakfast ideas, but there could be reasons why it is not a good fit for you. So I would get clear on it first and then go from there. We're almost out of time, but I'm going to read up these last couple of questions. One of the habits I was working on was doing my dishes every day. I kept failing at doing them in the evening, so I finally tried doing them in the morning before I made for my lunch for work. I love it. The evenings are hard, y'all. My bedtime routine is a warm magnesium drink while I do Wordle, connections, and the mini crossword. I do connections and the mini crossword, but I never do. I don't know why I don't like Wordle. I look forward to it, so it helps me get to bed earlier. I love that, Amy. Back to Jennifer's dishes. I have succeeded almost every day with switching to the morning. Finding the right time to do something helps. Yes. Okay, back to Anna's question about reading. I listen to them while I'm working. I'm doing both nonfiction and fiction. So it seems like so my guess is you may have just underestimated how quickly you're listening to books, right? You thought it was going to be. So I would not worry about the number then. I wouldn't change the number. I would just keep reading. And it just sounds like you didn't necessarily know how quickly you would read them. And so I would just keep reading. If you really want a number, you could prorate it, or you just take that data and set a different goal next year. Remotivation. I have a 1-minute version so I can get a check mark even if I don't have the energy or mental capacity for more. I do love that. Allie, I try to do my physical chores in the morning before work and budget planning and paperwork in the evening. Might try reversing it. Thanks for the input, because evening mental fatigue is real. Yeah. There really is a difference between mentally exhausting and physically exhausting. And then there obviously are activities that are going to do both. And then the number one reminder here too is that it is different for different people. What is mentally exhausting for you may not be mentally exhausting for somebody else, and vice versa with physical exhaustion. And like what is exhausting for you may not be exhausting for somebody else. So you've got to know for you, what are your mental fatigues and what are your physical fatigues, and pick your actions accordingly. All right, let's see if we can still wrap this up in an hour. If not, it's okay. What is the one thing you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals? What is the one small action step you're going to take? If you're here live, I would love for you to share in the chat. And if you are watching the replay and still watching it, I would love for you to share in the comments. What is the one step you're going to take this week? Mine should come as no surprise. It is finishing the registry discount because it expires on Sunday. So getting that done. And I will continue to take suggestions if anyone has them. I'm about to sneeze, maybe. Perhaps. You know that feeling when you're like, am I going to sneeze? Am I going to sneeze? Coffee. Come on, YouTube. You can get the comments. Keeping up with your evening routine. I love it. So much conversation tonight around evening eating routines. So remember the difference. Evening, bedtime, and you can call it whatever you want to call it, but just keep that in mind. Select your next physical book and start reading. Watch the community calls replay from last night, or January Power Hour and last night's. All the power houring. I love it. All right, I'm sure more are going to pop up as I close this out, but it is almost 1. So if you liked this video, I would appreciate you giving it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every week focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for hanging out today.